beautiful. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Tell me what you would like.
Good afternoon, sir.
All
How
right.
the world is open?
How did the world become open, or how is it open?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yeah.
That's the first question.
Yeah.
A foreword to the book that says about openness and how the world's become open for learning. So the word open is hard to translate into Chinese. They didn't know how to translate the word open. It means many things in Chinese, apparently. As you know, much of the great firewall of China has closed off the internet to people. They can't access Google. They can't access Gmail. They can't access a lot of the technologies and tools that we use and take for granted here in the USA, as well as back where you are in India. So the word open means different things in different cultures. And, you know, even this book here in Arabic, I wanted to send a copy. It's upside down. They go from left to right to left instead of left to right in their writing on that book, as you know. So even this book was hard to send to Saudi Arabia, where the translator lives, because they check the books in customs. They check all the luggage, all the baggage. It took a long time to get a copy to them so they could translate the book. I sent them a copy in English, but it took a long time to arrive. So openness in closed societies is an oxymoron, sort of. It's a conundrum of sorts. The world's become open for different people in different ways. If you look at farmers in India, you've got them opening up the world through mobile text messages on their phones. That's open for them in terms of education. Here in the USA, openness means, and in the UK, openness means we've taken our entire class and enabled people to apply that normally couldn't get into school because of recommendations or grades or whatever. We open up the doors and let anyone in who wants to enroll in a class. There no longer are the elitist barriers that people face. And so openness can mean the boundaries and the restrictions of the application process alone. Openness can also mean the access to contents. And that's where my book comes to play. It's opening up access to content.
And the tech variety is open.
And resources. And so I have that book,
Yeah.
the Tech Variety book, that is a fully open book.
Yeah.
You know, this book is fully free and online.
Thank you for
And you
giving me
can
a copy of
download the
it.
book
Yeah.
at Tech Variety, TEC Variety.
It is
Don't buy the
amazing.
book. Get it downloaded online. It's not worth the paper. You can get it free.
Yeah.
So openness for some people means that. Openness can also mean that you're opening people's minds to new thoughts and new ideas and new perspectives and new ways of doing things. Openness can also mean that you've opened up who's in the class. So massive open online classes allow anyone, as opposed to opening up content. Open courseware, open educational resources are opening up the content. Openness through having a web conference that anyone can attend is opening up the audience who can participate in the course. You can also open up who are the instructors of the course and have multiple instructors coming from anywhere. Openness can also come into play when we think about the assessment process and what kind of tasks we assign. Do we allow flexibility in that and opportunities for that? But really, my book, The World is Open, was covering three things that had happened simultaneously to converge. First of all, there was content available on the internet, trillions of pages of content. Second, we had the piping or infrastructure. So pages is one P is pages. Two is piping, pipes or infrastructure. enabling you to get broadband or even low band access to contents, to those contents that are there. And the third P of the three Ps is a participatory culture. Instead of reception learning, lecturing, didactic instruction, today we've got more generation, participation, creation, collaboration, interaction, and exchange. And so the third P in some ways is the most important P. But in some ways, the technology had to set the base of the possibilities before we could get to the third P. The technology had to create those opportunities to learn. Technology had to create that availability of knowledge, availability of contents, so that we now know we don't need to impart what an expert knows in his or her head to a waiting, receptive learner. Today, it's no longer about that exchange of precious, raw, rare knowledge from an expert and imparting that into an awaiting novice student who doesn't know or have access to know that content. And so you need the expert, you need the books, you need the authorities, you need the structures, you need those assessments. Today, those assessments are available and people are flipping their classrooms and making video available to teach those lessons ahead of time, before the class might start. You flip your classroom and watch those videos beforehand.
I've seen a class yesterday in Bloomington North.
And so there you see classes that are happening in this way, shape, or form. They're happening this way today that weren't happening before in this way. This is a new age where we no longer need to pay full homage to the instructor. Yes, the instructors are still very important, extremely important, the most important still. But they're not the only thing that we need to attend to today. Today, the learning environment is a more complicated terrain. It's a more rich with a plethora of resources available for all of us at any moment in time. And so this opening up means that young to old, we're learning. From very young to people in nursing homes at the end of life are still learning, right? And so we've got an environment today wrapped around us that is, number one, the first unique, it's the first time this has ever been possible. So people are doing research on what openness is and what it means to the world. And we also have an age where we've got 7 billion people on the planet, the most ever, and it will continue to grow. But we also have the most ever wanting access to education. And so people are begging for it, pushing it. People are exploring. I interviewed 3 people who have taken more than 100 massive open online courses. One person who took more than 700 of them. People are dying to get an education that weren't before. So this free and open content might impact people in different ways, depending upon your backgrounds and your previous access, your upbringing, what your parents had access to. Do you have bookshelves at home to read from, or not? Did you have access to education in different ways? So the opening up is helping people in particular who are disenfranchised, who are on the other side of the digital divide, become more empowered to learn in new ways and to take advantage of podcasts, webcasts, digital books or ebooks, simulations, animations, open courseware, free content from MIT and Harvard and other places on the internet. You might also have virtual worlds to explore, and you might have that all on the tip of your mobile devices. That all might come to you on an application. So you might have a piece of a class or an entire class.
Evaluation techniques.
You might have new ways to then evaluate what we've learned from those open educational contents, as well as how we're learning from them and how we're delivering those contents. The delivery mechanisms are changing. The assessment mechanisms are changing. The content, first of all, was the big opener, but now we're looking at different types of openers. Are we personalizing the learning, creating paths for people to learn from? And are we giving more individualized and customized feedback, more genuine feedback than we could before? this internet age that we're in today. Is that true? I think so. And I think this is all adding to openness. Now, what can you do? What can you do to open up the world? That's what I ask in the preface to my World is Open book. What you can do is you can write a blog and sharing what you're doing. You can put your syllabi, if you're a teacher, put your syllabi or pieces of your courses online. You can do a podcast or a webcast as you're doing here with this interview, and interviewing people in your region, your district, your school about topics of interest that could be shared. You might be the person who's in charge of downloading free contents from MIT and then printing them out and making them available for your local community. It's one way of opening up the world for others if you have a printer, or if you have the capabilities of doing that, or of downloading to your phones. You might get involved in the world of open education by doing research on it and what it means in your local region. You could get involved in a world of open education by forming a club that shares contents and looks for 10 or 20 of the best contents in math, in science, in biology, in algebra, and then you make those available for your students and parents and future students. Other ways to get involved in open education is to form a summit or a workshop on it to explain it to other people, or attend a conference on it to understand it better yourself. You could write a practical paper for your newsletter that explains what you're doing in your subject area, in algebra, geometry, history, whatever classes that you're teaching. There are a lot of ways to jump in here to get involved in the open world of education. You could just provide some free lectures to let others to flip their classrooms. You experiment a bit, experiment with open resources, experiment with open contents, and provide those for colleagues that could add to, that maybe could give you feedback on yours. An important aspect of the open world is other eyeballs looking at it and giving you feedback on maybe things that are incorrect, and maybe helping you fix the errors in some of the content and improve them, as well as giving you feedback on resources you might be missing, or new resources that are coming out that you could add to that assembly of items that are there and available for you to use. So this is an open world, this is a free world, this is a fast world, this is an interesting world. This is a world that I'm enjoying being part of. I'm sure you're enjoying being part of it as well. There's so much we can offer today, but yet because of that enormous amount of open contents, people get confused. And some people might get, I would say they get lost and frustrated. What you can then provide is maybe some guidelines, some models, some guide sheets, some tips on how you might be using it today or how you could potentially use it in the future. Just briefly designing a list of 10 ways you might get involved in the open world gives you a strategic plan, gives you some kind of a, what would you say, a overview, a goal. It gives you a goal of where you want to go. We need goals. Humans are goal-driven creatures. So if you're lost in this open world, if you're not sure of where to go, look for models and frameworks. I've designed one with my Tech Variety book, another one with my book on my R2-D2 model, Read, Reflect, Display, and Do. Dr. Rathna will probably tell you about those. He understands those. He has the books and he can share them with you. He is someone who is providing a lot of opportunities for all of us to learn today. And that's why I think it's important for each of us to get involved in this new age of learning, for each of us to be contributors, participants, and also ones who train others to become more actively engaged in this age of participatory learning. Pages of content are important. Piping is important, but the participation, that's where you make a difference. It's when you add to, when you write a book together and call it a wiki book or a glossary, when you do a podcast show or a video and you post it up to a video sharing website like YouTube or something else. When you are involved as an educational community member that is excited about the open age, that is knowledgeable about what's possible, and who shares with others those possibilities, that's where excitement starts to happen. That's where change starts to happen. That's where commitment happens. So first you need awareness of this open age. Then you're going to have some resistance right away. You become aware, well, that's not what I'm doing. And immediately you're going to step back and say, wait a minute, I don't want to change what I'm doing. I want to go back the way it was. Paper is fine. I love paper. I can write on paper. I got my markers. I can write all that I want. So paper and markers, okay, that's totally fine. We feel safe here. I feel safe, so safe. We all need safety, psychological safety. So today,
no one wants to go out of that safe zone.
No one wants to move out of their safe zone. I got my little safe zone here. Just this little space that I've got wrapped around me. Don't change my safe space. But after a while, you'll start figuring out that this is an age of learning we still can use. Paper and pencil and markers and lectures, they're still important. But we have to move on to embrace other forms of learning as well. And that's why we now have this open world. We can no longer rely simply on old ways of learning. Too much has changed. Too many things we have to keep track of. We need meta-memory. We need metacognition. We need problem solving. We need critical reflection. And we need to generate ideas. This age of generative learning. No longer is our world one of memorization and you can go get a job. Memorization is important, but it's not the only way to get a job, is to memorize your way into a job and just learn the basic facts. You have to be able to think on your feet. And lifelong learning, continue to learn and grow. That's what's exciting about the open age. It provides everyone with the opportunity to keep learning. Everyone can excel. Everyone can go beyond where they are today. There's so much available. The problem is, what's quality? What's high quality? How do I know that the content's there that I need to know? So there's a process here in America called Quality Matters. Quality Matters. Take a look at Quality Matters website. So another website called Merlot.org, M-E-R-L-O-T, which is a wine here in the U.S., but Merlot.org is actually a tasty website of high quality contents, whether it's healthcare or business or law or algebra or whatever. Accounting, I was an accountant at one point. I was a psychologist at one point. It's all up there at Merlot.org, all peer evaluated. So we need evaluation of those contents. What is good, what is not so good.
How this technology, you are a professor in education, a very famous institution at present. Now, how this technology came to your mind? How you started thinking of the educational technology and
how did I get involved in this? Is your question. Let's pause.
Your involvement,
So your question is, how did I get involved in this area of openness with technology, new technologies, psychology of technology, all this, collaborative technologies? Nothing happens by chance. Nothing happens alone. Nothing happens apart from everything else. So I happened to be working in a high technology company that made the most dense circuit boards in the world. And because of working in this company, I could see that they were making a change in society, but it was not the same kind of change in society that I wanted to happen. And so I gradually was taking courses at night in psychology and technology. And I was an accountant. I was a business person. I'm interested in the intersection of psychology, technology, education, and business. That intersection, psychology, technology, education, and business, is what's happening today. There's a lot going on today in that area. There's a lot of new companies coming out in the field of education, in India, in China, in USA. There's a lot of venture capital to build new companies. I had a company that did survey research tools, kind of like, you may have heard of SurveyMonkey or Zoomerang. I had a company like that. And so I built some survey software. I hired people to build software. I can't build software. I wouldn't trust me to build software. So I hired people to build it, and we did. So I built a lot of tools back in 1999 to 2010. I built a lot of software with other people, a lot of websites. I was building a lot of websites for sharing. I had bookstore
That was the
share.
right time to,
Right time
yeah.
to build all this. I
Yeah,
had bookstore share, survey share, library share, course share, training share, instructor share, bookstore share. You name it, I had a share site. Only a few exist today still. I still own training share and course share. I sold survey share, and the others no longer exist, I think. But anyhow, I experimented. I got interested in technology a long time ago, back in the 1980s. Even that, before that, in the 1970s, I took programming courses. Those early programming courses in high school got me interested in doing what I'm doing today. So I took basic programming 3 times. It goes in this year, comes out the other year. I can't program. But I can hire other people to program. I understand it. So I think early experience helps. I think I've always been curious about new things, interesting gadgets and so forth. And so I'm constantly reading about a different new technology, whether it's augmented reality, virtual reality, collaborative technologies, e-books, digital books, e-learning, blended learning, whatever it happens to be. I'm constantly reading and updating myself on that. And so that's given me a leg up, I think. That's given me some insights, I think. That's given me some awareness of what's going on. It's given me some a benchmark to understand what's there. When I worked in a high-tech company, that was helpful, working in the high-tech company. That was helpful to see the passion of other people, to see what a small firm, what a small company could do to change the world. Our customers were some of the biggest name customers in the world. And so that kind of got me started on this path. That kind of got me thinking about it. And then I was also an accountant. I was very bored. So at the same time, I needed to change. And I found this field is one that's full of change and difference. Accounting is very closed. Education and psychology is very open. And I needed something very open. I needed something without many restrictions. I needed something without my hands being handcuffed. So this field enables me to dabble or try out or experiment with things that other fields would not, especially not accounting. Accounting gave me the organizational skills. It gave me the planning skills. It gave me the time management skills. It gave me the logic skills. But what it didn't do is free up my passions and creativity. But it got me now today to say, any day I'm not an accountant is a good day. Any day I'm not an accountant is a great day, actually. And so people ask where my energy comes from. I tell them, be an accountant for a week or even a day, and you'll have more energy when you're not an accountant than you ever would otherwise. So accounting is one of the most atrociously boring areas that one could ever participate in as a member of the human race. So I have an opportunity now to make a difference in this field, and I'm going to take advantage of it. I wasted nearly 9 years of my life, 4 years studying to be an accountant, 5 years being an accountant. I have to make that time up. And being in this field, I can make some of that up because a lot of change can happen quickly. A lot of contributions can happen quickly. So that's my answer to that question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and yeah, that's perfect. I understood. Now, in US, what are the technologies the teachers are using to make the education or the studies learning more effective in US, with a special focus on open source software, if at all they are using it?
What are teachers using, you're asking?
Yeah.
Repeat that question.
The technology the teachers using in the US at present.
So, we've had a focus over the past 5 to 6 years on graph tablet computers and smart boards and mobile apps. Increasingly, digital contents, ebooks and other contents that supplement their books or replace their books. Those tend to be the technologies of use in a K-12 school setting.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, some dabble in other things like wikis and students, putting projects up in a wiki.
Yeah.
Some might dabble in using video as a sharing mechanism and flipping classroom through video as a medium for doing so. Some might do podcast shows. I mean, you'll see the wide gamut across. If you interview enough teachers, you'll find every technology being used. If you're looking for the masses, if you're looking for what the majority are using,
Desmos,
online practice exams, online supplemental readings, and like I said,
GeoGebra sort of thing.
Online labs for
labs.
online algebra labs or physics labs or biology labs or chemistry labs. Sure, that's going to be, online.
Graphing software.
Graphing software has been around for decades. It's just become more sophisticated now.
Yeah.
We used to have the little handheld devices that you would do the graphing on. Now they've imported that over to the internet. But as I said, smart boards are something. But smart boards become dumb boards when they become more of an extension of what the teacher's doing than something you can experiment with and arouse curiosity with. So if it becomes a projection unit, it's not that smart. That's my take on that. Tablet computers or iPads and things like that.
Yeah, and homeworks, they do it, submit it. Teachers can see in their home.
Yeah.
They check it, and so.
There's tools for automatizing and making things more efficient. Online grade books, online processing of tasks.
Yeah.
To be honest, in my classes, we have a website where students can upload papers, and there's a speed grader, and there's a grading book online. I don't use much of any of that. I still have a paper grade book and a paper planner. I mean, I still think there are advantages to having all my schedule on a paper planner sitting in my pocket, So, I've got lots of notes of what I need to work on. While I'm known as the high-tech guy, I still have paper, and I use paper grade books, and I'm maybe the only one in the department who asked for the paper grade book. But then I can look at all my paper grade books and see all my former students.
Yeah, I was discussing with the teacher yesterday. He was telling the good old chalk and talk method is highly efficient, even now, as far as the mathematics teaching is concerned.
Yeah. So there are places for everything.
Yeah.
We can't I don't think we're going to give up any form of technology fully. We just have to think wisely and thoughtfully about how to utilize it in the best manner. And supplement our the student learning, empower students learning using the best of what's out there.
You have traveled throughout the world, and you have gone to India.
Is this question 3 or question 4?
Question 3.
Okay.
One more is there. And what are your suggestions for further improvement in the Indian education system, or do you find any area which you felt interesting, which is good, which is copyable to some other good, or along with that, are there any areas of improvement in the education system of our country?
My knowledge of the Indian education system is limited because it's not a country that I've been to. What's happened over the past few years is I've had several students go back to India, and I've also been contacted by a couple of people in India doing mobile kinds of forms of learning and creative expression kinds of forms of learning, creating new schools. Seems to be, what I can tell, there seems to be a cadre of people who are trying to create innovative schools, change in the Indian school system from what I can tell. Again, I'm an outsider looking in. I'm not an insider looking out. But from what I can tell, there are changes in the air, and there's a focus on democratic access to education for all. And so there's a real backing from the government in decreasing the costs of the technologies that are out there, both the broadband access and the platforms that you deliver things on. At the same time, there's a need for standards and a need for goals. And so I was involved. People asked me in Delhi, I think it was, to look at new standards for delivering massive open online courses, and from Indira Gandhi National Open University there, IGNU. And so I did take a look at those and gave some feedback on them. So so while there's a push to democratize education and embrace open education in India, my good colleague Sanjay Mishra, who is from Delhi, now he's in Vancouver, but he wrote many papers and books about open education. I read a few of his, and I'll see him in 2 weeks in Vancouver. He's helping me run a conference there. But he was focused on quality. Given all this push for open education, you need to have quality content or it's going to fail. So what is quality? How can we ensure quality? What does quality mean? So I think India, because of the number of people that have been left out of the educational process, there's going to be one part that's looking at reducing costs of access, one segment that's looking at access alone, one part that's looking at the devices that we access things on, just lowering the cost of flash memory sticks and lowering the cost of tablet computers and lowering the cost of laptops and lowering the cost of mobile devices. The $3.67 smartphone comes out of India. The $10 laptop project comes out of India. So there's a lot of focus on access, cost, quality, creativity, and then there's this other category of all sorts of other things. But there's a wide gamut of initiatives in India. How well it's orchestrated and organized is going to be important. There hasn't been much focus in India on instructional design, and the training of instructional designers. That's starting to happen. The need for understanding educational experts who know how to create engaging, interactive contents and media that help for lifelong learning. That is going to be a big emphasis in the future. And if you're someone watching this video and are looking for a place to get a degree in instructional design or engineering design, you might call it, maybe combining an engineering degree with an education degree might be a way to go in the future. I know many people in India want engineering degrees, and many people in India are interested in education. You might try and bridge that by looking at the intersection of the two, adding a bit of knowledge of cognitive psychology in there so you understand how the human mind works. That might be a unique niche area to get involved in the near future and make a difference in your country and the world.
Yeah, and the fourth question, what are your advice to the upcoming teachers and teacher educators? With a special focus on my country or throughout the world, whatever it is.
So my advice for people entering the field of teacher education is to take time to think about your goals and what is it that you're passionate about. What is it you're truly interested in? That may take some time to figure out. It may take internships, but there are so many ways in which teachers can make a difference today, both in formal as well as informal settings. Informal is exploding. The teachers that are going to be helping, the tutors that are going to be helping, the mentors that are going to be helping us access that informal side of life is going to explode. So I would recommend, if I was trained to be a pre-service teacher today, is to think about a backup plan. What are you going to do in addition to that? Because yes, teachers can help in your own respective classrooms, but what about the tens of thousands of people that want to learn during the summertime, during their free time, during their extra time, but need some advice from a teacher to get into that? How might you take a leadership role in helping people address their interests that are outside the normal formal educational system or process? What can you provide for them? How might you create a community of learners or community of inquiry or community of practice that inspires others? So yeah, in terms of teaching, in terms of becoming trained, my advice for becoming a teacher today is to learn how to scaffold and guide instruction, because the role of the teacher is changing to one as a teacher as a coach, teacher as a curator of contents, teacher as a counselor. And so understanding the new roles of the instructor and understanding the new principles of instruction, how to create authentic and meaningful learning environments, how to create collaborative and engaging learning environments, how to create flexible and convenient learning environments, how to create high expectations within those learning environments to excel. So the teacher's role today is no longer just imparting knowledge, but I would learn how to be able to create environments for learning that are situational, that are context-based, that can be inspiring based on the situation that you're in, the perspective that you have. So think about the activity plane, the activity settings that can foster generative creative processes as well as critical thinking, evaluative processes, and how you will motivate students through the contents to inspire them not just to learn your contents. The goal is no longer to learn your contents. The goal is to learn more than your contents. The government may assign you a set of content. You may look at it and become daunted, just say, wow, this weighs so much. Your goal is actually to get them to learn more than what they've assigned you. And to, at the end of that, to want more, to want even more, and to share what they've learned with others, and to inspire the next set, and have those group of learners come back to inspire the next year's learners. How do you create an environment that's so inspirational that students strive beyond the criteria and are so inspired that they want to come back and help the next unit, the next group? That's what your goal should be as a pre-service teacher, is to become someone who can orchestrate that. A magician, if you will. Maybe not a magician, but to take it so that you can have a rich and engaging learning environment that is something that is perpetual in nature, that isn't a one-off, that doesn't end at the end of exams, that's a community that grows and people contribute to it long after their supposed final exam. To me, that's the sign of a true teacher, is someone who's not there just to get them to a set endpoint of that content knowledge, but someone who's teaching them what life is like, how life is changing, how the discipline's changing, and where we might be going, and involving people in it. That's a sign of a true teacher. A curator, a consultant, a concierge, a coach, a collaborator, and many, many more C words. That'll be in my next book. Cultivating the learning process. And if that it happens, in effect, what I call a course ambassador. You're a course ambassador when your contents are shared with the world. I guess my parting thought will be, we all can make a difference in the world. We all can lend and share contents for others, and ideas and activities and expressions and voice of optimism. What will your one thing be? We all have a chance to build a niche. We all have a chance to inspire. We all have a chance to engage. We all have a chance to be here. You're here. What will you do with this opportunity now that you're here to engage and inspire? What will that one thing be? What will maybe two things be? When you find out, write to me. My name Curt, C-U-R-T, at curtbonk.com, B-O-N-K. Write me an email, or cjbonk@indiana.edu. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. Thank you for inviting me in today for this session. I hope to hear back from you. Use my free book, techvariety.com. Download it today. Don't buy the book. It's junk. Okay? Thank you all for being here. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.